You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Former IBF bantamweight champion Ebanie Bridges took to her social media and stated simply, "Fight news coming soon." Ebanie Bridges was one of the many female fighters picked up by MVP during their signing spree, but she has yet to make her MVP debut, sporting a professional record of 9 wins with 2 losses and no draws, 4 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 11 professional bouts. It's been roughly 2 years since Ebanie Bridges' last fight, the loss to Miyo Yoshida that costed her the blue and gold title. In the immediate aftermath, I remember hearing that Matchroom offered her a fight, but she didn't take it because she didn't like the money. And you wonder if she didn't make the wrong decision, because had she taken the fight, say it was a tune-up fight, she would have at least been coming off a win instead of still coming off a loss, now 39 years old. It's well known that Ebanie Bridges was a late bloomer in the sport, a late starter. She came into it much later than most other professional boxers, though, for what it's worth, she's done fairly well for herself. Made a name, won a world title, which is more than a lot of female fighters can say. But now, she has even more catching up to do, having sat out the last 2 years. And a lot has happened since then. She left Matchroom for MVP, she paired up with Kell Brock, and gave birth to her first child. And now she's on the bounce. Her last fight was a bantamweight contest. That's 118 pounds. 2 years removed from the sport, I'm not convinced that Ebanie can make that weight anymore. Not at 39, not at least in her first fight back. I figure that when she comes back, she may come back as heavy as 126, 122, maybe campaign there. Winning a world title at or around those weights will be difficult. I don't think Ebanie Bridges at this point can win a world title at 118 because Shernika Johnson has all the alphabet titles and Dina Thorsland has the Ring Magazine title. I would not go with Ebanie to beat either of them. Not at this point and not at 118 if she can even get down to 118. It's not much better at 122. I would not go with Ebanie to beat either Ellie Scottney or Mayeli Flores, much less the winner of their fight, the undisputed champion. I feel like Ebanie's best bet to become a 2-time world champion is to pick up a vacant title. Say Ellie and Mayeli have their fight, the winner wins and then moves up. Maybe then Ebanie can become a champion again, fighting for a belt that is vacant, because winning a belt from either of them, I don't see it. Why did MVP decide to pick her up? I think MVP made it its mission to host the strongest stable of female fighters in the world as part of their mission statement, to further legitimize themselves as a promotion in the sport of boxing, gain some headway in the sport, and sign what familiar faces are out there. Ebanie Bridges may be 39 years old, dangerously close to 40, but she still is one of the more recognizable female fighters in the sport. She still has a name people know. That's why I think they picked her up in spite of her age. They can still find use for her, and we all know that the women don't cost as much to do their fights as it does the men. So they can put her on a show, build her back up, see where it goes. But according to the Blonde Bomber, fight news is imminent. I don't expect it to be a dangerous opponent. Why would it be coming off a 2-year layoff? I expect it to be a tune-up fight, a bring-along fight to get her back in the swing of things, and we'll see where she lands and when. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, the boxing community at large is still reacting adversely to DAZN's recent rollout of what's supposed to be their ultimate tier, quote-unquote. what it's supposed to cost the boxing fans. A Twitter user that goes by the name Blunts in Boxing said, "Remember the individuals who claimed that PBC killed boxing on national television because of their pay-per-views and programming?"
Yeah, I was one of them, and they did.
Where are those outspoken voices when it comes to 12 pay-per-views a year and increasingly terrible matchmaking on pay-per-view cards?
What do you mean, where are they? They're all over the place. Everybody's complaining about DAZN right now. Is this supposed to be a gotcha moment?
That's what it sounds like, but you can't bash DAZN and simultaneously defend Al Heyman when you're the one likening what they're doing to what Al Heyman did, or what people said Al Heyman did. That's why you brought him up, because people used to complain about how many pay-per-views the PBC was doing.
And now people are complaining about how many pay-per-views DAZN is doing. So if they're both doing the same thing and people are complaining, those people are keeping the same energy. They're keeping the same energy about the same thing, even though it's two different entities doing it. You're the one that's not keeping the same energy because you're trying to defend Al Heyman for doing what DAZN is doing, except Al Heyman did it first.
Let's explore what he's saying, that people used to say Al Heyman killed boxing on national television. Is that true? In many ways it is.
It absolutely is. When he got all that money from Waddle and Reed and started overpaying his fighters, the cost of everything went up.
You can trace instability in the boxing market to the moment the PBC was formed and what they did with all of that investor money from Waddle and Reed. He convinced 150, 200 fighters to leave Golden Boy Promotions to go with him to what became his PBC, and the way he was able to convince them to do that was he overpaid them.
He promised them all big money, which he paid them while he still had it
to burn. In effect, creating instability within the boxing space, ripples that reverberated to every corner of the American boxing scene. Because if you're paying your fighters X
to fight no-hopers, to fight in tune-up fights,
then it's going to cost you Y to get them to fight a live body, to get them to fight in a real fight with a real fighter. This practice drove the cost of everything up.
Side of the street politics drove the cost of everything up, and side of the street politics didn't really start until the inception of the PBC.
Sides of the street. Exclusivity deals with broadcasters, trying to keep everything in-house, trying to operate as an island. All of that can be traced back to the inception of the PBC.
Because it really wasn't like that before them. It wasn't like that before.
All of this created the fragmentation and instability you see within the boxing space now, and it all starts with the PBC. So when you see people blaming Al Heyman for network television walking away from the sport, well, that's why, because it all started with him, and that is not now invalidated because DAZN is doing a bunch of pay-per-views.
This is a very poorly put together argument if that's what Blunts in Boxing was trying to do. In defense of Al Heyman, he is the one who caused NBC to walk away. He is the one who caused Fox to walk away. And Showtime, after what, 37 years in the sport of boxing, you think he had nothing to do with that? While you're complaining about how many pay-per-views DAZN is doing and what it costs, well, he did that first across two major platforms.
Which, in effect, set the tempo for what you see today. You see, in overpaying his fighters on a regular basis to fight no-hopers and stiffs, it drove the cost of everything up to where if they have to fight a live body, well, now they want more money.
So much more that the network's not just going to kick that out to them, so they resort to looking for the money on pay-per-view, hoping that it comes from me and you. These inflated purse demands, these entitled, overpaid fighters.
Al Heyman is the one who made them that way, so that when they became that way, he oversaturated the market with pay-per-views. Remember, in the last 7 or 8 years, Top Rank never did anywhere near as many pay-per-views as the PBC.
Nobody did. Not Top Rank, not Golden Boy, not Matchroom. For a very long time, PBC was doing more pay-per-views more often than everybody in the industry. And more pay-per-views, more paywalls essentially, means less eyes on boxing.
All whilst hiding your fighters behind side-of-the-street politics and hiding content behind paywalls, behind pay-per-view after pay-per-view, to where the audience that normally consumes boxing,
It shrunk.
you know, the side-of-the-street politics hurt boxing because there were fights that fight fans wanted that they didn't get, or they didn't get them in a timely fashion. After a while, people become uninterested and watch something else. There's that.
Missing out on fights like Mikey Garcia versus Vasyl Lomachenko, or having to wait 5 years for Crawford versus Spence.
5 years too long. That's the kind of stuff that hurt boxing. Side-of-the-street politics. The way the pay-per-views hurt boxing is oversaturation of the pay-per-view market made it too expensive for the casual boxing fan to take in boxing. In turn, the broadcasters weren't getting enough of an ROI on those pay-per-views. Enough people weren't buying them. Enough people weren't watching boxing.
You're sacrificing a large portion of the boxing audience in the hopes that you can make extra money on pay-per-view, so that when the audience doesn't buy that pay-per-view,
Broadcast partner's not happy, and after a while, the broadcast partner decides this just isn't worth our money. It's just not worth it. We're not getting anything back. In between the time that all of that happens, DAZN debuts in America, and by the time they do, the cost of everything has gone up dramatically.
and they end up overpaying fighters just to keep up with the Joneses, to keep up with the standard that the PBC created. So that when they are now inundating the market with pay-per-views, that's because the PBC set that standard. They created that environment.
Status quo, and so many of these entitled fighters that think you have to pay them an arm and a leg just to get out there and do the job. It all starts with Al. And thus, when you acknowledge that DAZN is doing now what people complained about, what people said the PBC was doing then, and in many ways is still doing, how is that a defense for Al Heyman? How is that reprieve?
It's not. You thought you had a gotcha moment. You thought that people were going to act different towards DAZN for doing the same thing Al did, but they're not acting different. They were complaining about Al, and now they're complaining about DAZN. So this is not the gotcha moment that you wanted it to be.
Now, my question would be, why are you still defending Al Heyman? Though that would be a rhetorical question, because I already know why you're defending him. It's because of the color of his skin. It's because you have that in common with him.
It's because you have a victim's mentality, and you think that Al Heyman was victimized on the premise of his race and not his business practices.
Except that those same business practices are now being criticized when it comes to somebody else entirely. So what does that tell you?
What it should tell you is that he's an asshole, and so are they.
Sick and tired of these fucking tribalists trying to defend Al Heyman, trying to pretend that he didn't ruin boxing in America by driving the cost of everything up. That was him!
Get over it!
Stop playing him the violin, expecting us to cry him a river because of how unfairly he was treated?
Bullshit.
All this shit, all this fucking shit you see now, he created that environment, and you keep apologizing for him.
It's never gonna work.
There are still people around that are old enough to remember he ruined boxing in America.
You know, Virgil has a fight going on right now. That's one thing. You got to show his opponent respect, because if you know, boxing works certain ways. You know, you overlook somebody, it'll bite you in the ass. You know, the other thing is that, I mean, come on, the guy just fought a nobody. You know, how are you supposed to sit here and be worrying about him when he's fighting nobody? Just like thinks he can just go straight to you. Like how about you fight somebody? You know, you got to earn your way also. It's just the way it is. Lubin has earned his way. So for us, that's how we see it. You know, Lubin's earned it. This guy's not even in the conversation for us. You know, unless you fight somebody, or if the money's there and they present it and it's good, you know, that's fine. But man, the guy turned it down twice already, just recently. This last offer was supposed to be for October. So how can we sit here and think about him when he's already turned it down? For us, it doesn't make no sense. It's like,
You're already seeing it. Don't pretend that you don't. That sounds a lot like Cold Feet from Virgil Ortiz Sr., Jr.'s father, who's rationalizing why it no longer makes sense to fight Boots Ennis, even though it made sense before. You accepted the fight before, so what's the problem accepting the fight now? You say that he hasn't fought anyone.
Okay, well, you accepted the fight before, so why can't you accept it now? You say that Erickson Lubin, he's actually earned his way, but don't pretend that you're gonna make with Lubin this weekend what you can make with Boots. You know there's a lot more money on the table for Boots. You know DAZN wants to do it.
The fucking platform wants you to do it. The platform you both fight on.
Maybe he's grown impatient that they accepted the fight already and Boots rejected it. And maybe he did. But now they've spun the block, they've come back to the table, so what's the fucking problem? That because he rejected it, you should never entertain him again? You should never fight him?
Sounds a lot like cold feet.
He's gonna be ringside tomorrow, alongside Eddie Hearn, to mount a scouting report, the way that boxers often do, right before they fight somebody. I heard Oscar De La Hoya tell them not to come.
You hear Virgil Ortiz Sr. say that maybe they should fight somebody else in the interim, that they have to earn it.
That it doesn't make sense for Team Ortiz.
What people don't know and what people believe is what one thing that Eddie Hearn could say. We're gonna show up because that's the fight we got next. We already got the contract signed. That's not reality. We know that's all just Eddie doing his job. Eddie's great at what he does. Boots doesn't want to fight Virgil. Boots is not going to fight Virgil next. Whatever they say, oh, there's a signed contract already. That's all bullshit. There's Boots is not going to fight. Boots is not going to fight Virgil next. He's going to show up. Why didn't they call us up and invite us to his fight 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever he just fought recently? You come to ours, we go to yours, we promote the fight. That would have been the perfect idea to do. But they want to show up, and they are going to show up. That doesn't make a difference. Virgil's going to do his job. But, that's just kind of like trying to get the media, the press to believe that they're ready for the fight. I know they're not. I know they already have a date where they already have, a possible opponent already. So it's all part of the show, part of promoting the event, part of promoting his fighter, and Eddie's doing a great job doing it.
Now tell me you don't notice how everybody on Virgil's side of it is being so negative about the Boots fight. Robert Garcia says that they already have a possible opponent and they have a tentative date for Boots. Yeah, in the event that they don't fight your fighter, in the event things don't work out with Virgil. But if Virgil takes care of business on Saturday, and most people are expecting him to, there's no real reason that the fight shouldn't happen. That, you know what? If they're faking the funk, then call their bluff. You did it before, do it again.
Something's going on. There's a sense of worry that I see in Virgil's father and Robert. I looked at Virgil at the weigh-ins.
Now tell me that his eyes don't look sunken in, that he doesn't look drawn and gaunt like he used to look at 147. I said it a while ago that 154 is really not that far off from 147. That
it's a momentary reprieve, but it won't take long for Virgil to struggle to make 154 because it's just a few pounds, and he's a big boy.
And I'm talking about when he first moved up to 154. I suggested that he should just shoot up to 160. He'll have a lot more time there to adapt, to acclimate, because 154 is not that far off from 147, and before you know it, you're gonna struggle to make that weight. Now look at him. I'm not wishing any bad upon him. I hope he has a great fight this weekend. I hope he lives up to expectations and stops Erickson Lubin.
But I can't help but notice how negative everybody in his team is being about that Boots fight. Like they're in a hurry to go somewhere else or do something else, like something's wrong and they don't want to give it away. I wish young Virgil all the best this weekend. I wish him all the best tomorrow night. But it does feel like something is wrong.
Something's got everybody in his team unsettled and uneasy.